everybody to the Power of CX, Unlock Your Brand's Potential. Today, we're going to be talking about exactly that. First of all, what is CX? It's customer experience for anyone that doesn't know, but we'll go through that in more detail today. So let's go into making some introductions. Next slide. This is where technology always lets you down, doesn't it?
Hey, there we go.
So let's do some introductions. I am Hannah Cook, Head of Growth and Innovation at the Pull Agency. A little bit about me from my background. I'm obsessed with all things beauty, but also I love a little bit of tech in the process. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. However, these two people are far more important than I in this dialogue. So I'm going to go to my left, first of all. Are you okay to say hello, Andy?
I am indeed. Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Marsh. I'm a CX Director at Pull. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is getting CX operationalized. So my background is running CX programs on behalf of brands, but also running digital teams within kind of large networked agencies and smaller agencies. So really kind of getting under the skin of what makes digital work for brands.
Absolutely.
Over to you, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar background to Andy. So I'm also a CX Director with Pull. My background has also been working in larger kind of network creative agencies, but also within smaller startup and more agile creative agencies. But on both sides, really looking about understanding customers, what makes them tick, and then thinking about the experiences that we can craft and create for them. And some of the brands that I've been lucky enough to work with include Samsung, Pampers, KFC, lots of kind of retail brands. So really excited to talk to you all today about CX and the role that CX can play to empower your brand.
Awesome. Right. So rather than jumping in super quickly, I'm just turning my Teams off because it loves to be noisy always when you're doing these kind of recordings. One of the things I want to jump into really quickly here at Pull, we work in a lot of different ways, but rather than me showing you lots of slides, I'm going to show you a cheeky video instead. We believe inside every brand there's a better story waiting to be told. And the way in which we like to approach this is by being a bit of a bridge here at the Pull Agency, and we connect brands to their consumers through a multitude of things, but the key element is rigorous research and making sure that we have a really strong understanding of who you're trying to speak to, what are you trying to achieve, and also how do they feel about it, because understanding actually that end customer journey is really key, and that's one of the things we wanted to use to try and drive this dialogue today. One of the things on top of that, I think, is around the experience that we have with working in this environment on creative campaigning, whether that's activating and amplifying your brand story on and offline. And for that reason, customer experience for us is more important than ever. So, what is CX? And why is it such a powerful tool? Why should you care?
Over
James?
to me.
Why should you care, James?
Well, I'm about to explain. So let's kick things off by clarifying how we define CX. So typically we like to think of CX in simple terms in being a really powerful business tool for understanding how customers think, feel and behave every time they interact with your brand. And that can either be within the physical world or within the digital world, such as your social channels, your websites, your apps, and so forth. So examples of CX would include things like the first time your customers find out about you from your advertising, your customers visiting your website to find out more about your products, the conversations your customers are having with your customer services teams, either on the phone or on social channels, or the physical experience of interacting with your brand in a retail environment. But as Hannah was just asking, why should you care? The reason you should care is because CX is all-encompassing and all-important when it comes to creating a consistent and powerful experience for your brand. And there's this quote from Steve Jobs that kind of says it's not the customer's job to know what they want. So if it's not the customer's job, then whose job is it? And actually, quite frankly put, it's our job, as kind of brand specialists and as marketers and as salespeople and as people who are shaping the world around us. Nobody knew that the first iPhone that was released that they needed one. But now here we are, kind of 38 models later, and actually that need is not dissipating whatsoever. So beyond being our job, it's also our biggest opportunity. So CX, as we can see, is the opportunity to build a picture of what our customers think, feel and do across the lifespan of their relationship with your brand. And we're going to really explore that in a lot more detail on today's session. So your customers have high expectations for their digital and physical experiences with your brand. And that's really driven by innovative brands, products and services. So, for example, fast checkout options have been driven by the likes of Amazon and PayPal with kind of things like one-click delivery. Restaurant food delivery to your doorstep has been driven by brands such as Just Eat and Deliveroo, who've really set the bar for being able to choose different restaurants and have them delivered, within 30 minutes via an app. And things like pre-owned fashion buying and selling have been driven by the likes of eBay and Vinted, who have really reimagined that genre and have made it digital and easy to both buy and sell via. But defining a customer experience can be time consuming and expensive and not moving quickly enough to solve your immediate challenges and needs or your leaky budget. So today we're going to talk about why CX doesn't need to be overly complex or time consuming and how we can do things a faster way. So we can see here that actually 56% of consumers feel that brands are failing to deliver a hybrid blend of a physical and digital experience. So that could mean, for example, that when making your website checkout and your physical in-store checkout, making sure that both of those are aligned. 60% of marketing leaders say the digital customer journey has dramatically changed their CX strategy. So this could mean, for example, appearing on new channels based on where their audiences spend time, or changing their delivery experience and options to keep up with what the competition are doing. And 2 in 3 marketing leaders aren't very confident in their CX strategy's ability to win and retain customers in this new environment. And that could be concerns with catching up with the existing market leaders, or it could be concerns with losing market share to new and innovative competitors. But on both fronts, it's about creating that customer experience. So what it all boils down to is the fact that customers choose brands that resonate with them and look after them at any time and in any channel. So how customers think and feel about brands during the customer journey impacts their purchase decisions. And what this means is that CX then gives you the opportunity as a brand leader or a marketer to take control of this for your brand by designing the experience that they go through. And that experience could be anything, as we've mentioned, from some things that are digital, like experiencing your social channels and website, through to things like how you appear in store or in pop-up experiences.
And just to add to that, while it kind of seems like a bit of a no-brainer, the bigger you become, the more disjointed as a business at times you unintentionally become as well.
Absolutely.
And actually it's having that bird's eye view across everything coming in and making sure you're all singing off the same hymn sheet is actually more important now than ever, because of the volume of channels that are out there now. And also, a consumer doesn't really care whether they've engaged with your brand on Amazon versus Instagram. What they care about is what that experience is.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And what we think in particular, because we know a lot of people joining the call today may have a retail or a health and beauty background, where we think that the experience design should typically focus on is two key things. The first one, as Hannah mentioned, is very competitive in the marketplaces in particular, so we should be priming consumers to be actively looking for your brand. And the second thing is thinking about how CX can drive growth and revenues through those excellent brand experiences, and where are the different channels that they can go to market, what are the different ways that they can purchase the products through us via. So, CX and the power of CX, as by the title of today's session, is really about having an audience-led approach to your business challenges that unlocks your brand's potential. And so what we mean by this is really it's important to take the time to deeply understand our audiences, and if we do that, we can better design and optimize the experiences around their wants, their needs, their barriers, their pain points. So within this model, there's kind of a three-pronged approach. Firstly, understanding mindsets involves stepping into the shoes of our customers. So, for example, interviewing them to get their thoughts, reading their customer reviews across various review sites, understanding the things that they might be searching for on Google or other search engines, or using any other source of insight to paint a picture of how they think, how they feel, and how they behave. Designing experiences, excuse me, is your brand's opportunity to really reinvent the different touch points that you've got. So that could, for example, mean designing a brand new website, or designing a brand new web app or native application, or launching a new social channel. So it's really some new experience that you can bring to the table. But equally important to this is actually optimizing experiences, and that's your brand's opportunity to make your existing channels and touch points work harder than they ever have done before. And we appreciate that from a CX perspective, whilst a lot of the time designing new experiences can look like a longer term vision, optimizing the experience is the thing that will help you to drive immediate results that you can show back into your organization. So let's talk a little bit more about the journey, and we often get asked about what the difference is between CX, customer experience, and UX, user experience. And so in our book, or from our point of view, a nice analogy here that we like to use is the experience of booking and eating at a restaurant. So to take this example, the end-to-end experience of choosing a restaurant, making the booking, traveling to the restaurant, eating at the restaurant, paying the bill, and leaving the review is what we would consider to be the customer experience. It's really about that end-to-end multi-channel piece. But actually, the experience of ordering food from the menu, for example, using a digital tablet, is the user experience. So it's more of a defined touch point that exists within the consumer experience, and typically that is digital. And so, as we're kind of saying on here, the customer journey is really about that real world experience and behaviours, and not necessarily focused on any one touch point, and could be kind of physical or digital.
Yeah, and you can also think about it from another point of view of the social perceptions that play a big part when it comes to brand discovery as well. There's a lot of things outside of the tangible. I go here, I look at this, and I think that's where the real shift of the phygital world, in the word that everyone hates, really needs to start coming to fruition in the way that it's our responsibility as brands to really be thinking about it end to end, because that is the reality of how we all see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And almost kind of in contrast to that, then the user journey represents the kind of the steps or the interactions that people take when they're within a specific experience. So as we mentioned previously, the UX could be when somebody visits your website or your native application, and typically from a retail experience, certainly it might be around visiting, viewing products, comparing those products, making the product selection, confirming the products that they want to purchase, and then going through the basket and purchase journey through to shipping and delivery. So it's a bit more contained as a single touch point. So we can see here there is a difference between the customer experience and the user experience, but they're absolutely entwined with each other. And both disciplines are really about understanding audiences, customers, what makes them tick, and ultimately providing an experience for them that makes it easier for us to connect with them, but also to get them to convert.
Absolutely.
So CX is actually a growth lever for many of the most successful health and beauty brands. And the list that you can see here on screen of those brands, I'm sure everybody will recognise as household brands. It's taken from a YouGov poll of the most popular health and beauty brands. And they have this huge popularity because of the experience that they provide to their customers. And all of these top brands think about every touch point where their customers come into contact. So for example, if customers are asking questions on social channels, if they're searching for other customer reviews or visiting pop-up stores, and really it's about striving to create a consistent brand impression designed to match their customers' needs for the stage of the purchase journey that they happen to be on. And all of these big brands do an excellent job of that. But we did want to call to your attention one particular example that really has been making waves recently. So as you probably most people on the call will be aware of, one health and beauty brand who has absolutely exploded onto the scene in recent years is Charlotte Tilbury. And one of the things that's notable about Charlotte Tilbury is that the brand is built around Charlotte herself and gives it a really kind of a human face as opposed to a corporate face, which makes it really, really easy for customers to relate to. I think we all know that customer loyalty is about creating those great relationships with a brand. But also Charlotte Tilbury's brand presence, both in physical and digital worlds, and you can see some examples on screen here of both digital touch points and physical touch points, is always really consistent and really relevant based on what people want and need. But the brand always appears,
Yeah, I think as well, Charlotte Tilbury did a fantastic job at bridging in a third element, which is influencers. I think by actually really honing in the way in which consumers are used to engaging with influencers, their lives, their content, and that's in a bit of a weird way become part of their visual identity in that process as well. And so for us, this is a perfect example of thinking about the customer experience across the board and how your brand can have an impact there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, gold star for them.
Gold star, well done.
Well done indeed. So that's kind of almost a perspective on what good CX can look like across different touch points, but also CX can do so much more internally within your organisation in terms of giving each of your different teams and departments something to rally around, and that's about what's best for your customers, and that's something that every team should really, really align on. So whether that's coming from the top, from ownership or the executive leadership teams, right the way down to the various different people who may be on the call today, whether you're working in marketing, sales, operations, products, customer service, CX touches all of those different teams and helps us to make sure that we're aligned on putting the customer first, and gives us real responsibilities, understanding of customer needs, a vision for business success, which we'll talk a little bit more about being one of the fundamentals of CX, and ultimately an actionable plan for each team to fulfill their specific responsibilities. So we'll talk again in a bit about being agile and actionable. That's something CX should always be. And of course, I think everybody on the call who is responsible for marketing or sales has to show that success back into the business. It's a really important thing, particularly on digital fronts. So having a framework that measures the success of CX is something that absolutely is achievable and possible, and something that we can potentially help you with.
I think sometimes as well in marketing, it's really hard outside of key kind of performance-based sales metrics to always put some form of ROI on it when it comes to brand building.
Yeah.
And so by having this wider framework, actually it makes it easier to track it at times as well. And I think that's where a lot of people don't think about it. It's smarter business KPIs rather than individual department KPIs.
Yeah, and KPIs that are laddered back up to the strategy of the
Exactly.
business and the strategy of why you're doing the CX in the first place.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So you might be wondering about what some of the outputs of a CX project might look like, and there are a wide variety beyond the two that we've got on the screen here. But two of the key deliverables from our perspective are the customer journey map, and you can see up top we've got an example of a CX or a customer journey map. And the CX map really gives us insights into what our customers are thinking, feeling and doing, and we have that mapped against each different stage of the journey. So typically that could be from when they first come into contact with your brand in the awareness stage through to whether they're considering purchasing your brand, purchasing, and whether they're then thinking about whether they want to purchase again and kind of become loyal to your brand. And actually, the flip side of that is the roadmap, which is actually equally important to any CX project beyond just having the CX Insights map itself. And that is about translating all of the great ideas that you get generated from the CX Insight mapping and putting that into an operationalized plan for delivery that, again, as we mentioned earlier, that your teams really understand and know what they need to do and can have that plotted out. Maybe not exactly, because timing plans can change, but having some idea of how that maps out over the next quarter and over the next 6 months to a year plan.
Yeah, short, medium and long-term goals for the business. Yeah.
Exactly, absolutely. So yeah, we've mentioned that actually for us, what sets good CX aside is being agile, actionable and digitally exceptional. And we think that that is the key to unlocking the revenue capability within your brand's existing or new digital channels. In other words, whilst the process for conducting CX should be really robust, it shouldn't necessarily yield complex outputs or action plans which your business and teams will struggle to understand and implement. So what CX should always be, whoever you're talking to about it, whether it's yourselves talking to your internal teams or other external partners and agencies, what you should always be looking for is CX that is agile and actionable. So we mentioned a moment ago the importance of defining a vision as part of this CX process, and typically how this works is we think about how we align the various different teams and key stakeholders within a business from across the various teams. What's marketing's point of view, what's the sales point of view, what's the senior leadership's point of view, and getting everybody to agree on what this CX success vision looks like and penning that down into a concise statement that everybody can get behind. And then the way that we map the journey to achieving that success is thinking about 3 different pillars of objectives. The first one being about understanding your audiences and what do we want to deliver for your audiences from a customer experience and a user experience point of view. The second one is about commercial objectives. So what do you want to get out of it as a business? You know, what are the actual tangible things that we're going to get back? How do we measure it through sales or retention or whatever your business challenges are? And the third one is around operational objectives. So within your organisation, how can you make things smoother, remove friction, make processes better, make better use of innovation? And when you put the 3 of those things together, that gives us 3 really, really strong objective pillars that ladder up into our vision for success.
One of the things as well, I think some of this you might be thinking it's surely common sense. One of the challenges is when we're working on a specific brand or product, we all kind of just become a little bit indoctrinated into this is the way we do it, and so you can't always read the ingredients from inside the jar. And for that reason, actually bringing somebody else in that can play kind of dumb a little bit and naive to the way in which things work by bringing in technical structures and formats and ways of working, actually sometimes can kind of really open up opportunities and streamline as well a lot of focuses that brands are trying to look towards at times by using this.
And also the contextualization of those objectives into different areas means they can be owned by different areas of the business. You know, different people can own those and be responsible for or monitor and ensure that we're achieving those objectives throughout the business as the CX program moves through the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we might have to hold on. A little, like, there we go.
There we go. So hopefully at this point you're starting to get an idea of the power of CX and what that looks like, but you might also be wondering, if I invest my budget in CX, will it really work? And there's tons of stats out there that support the efficacy of CX, but for today we've just pulled a few top level statistics from leading sources. So firstly, 84% of companies that work to improve their customer experience report an increase in revenue. Secondly, customer centric companies are 60% more profitable than companies who don't focus on customers. And finally, customers who have a positive experience are 140% more likely to spend than those who have a poor experience. And of course, if you need any further information or statistics to help build a case for CX within your organisation, then please do feel free to get in touch with us following the session. So, moving on to the next section, let's talk about how we can solve problems using CX. And particularly we'll look at this through the lens of retail and health and beauty brands. We've chosen 3 examples as actually CX can solve a multitude of different business problems, but these are 3 challenges we see quite frequently, particularly within health and beauty and the wider retail space. So health and beauty products make up the 2nd largest product category for engagement across Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, as we can see on here, 32%, which is quite a whopping stat. And customers, as Hannah mentioned earlier, have more choices than ever, so getting their engagement is increasingly competitive, and CX can give us a real edge when it comes to getting in front of them. And it can really empower your brand to surprise and delight your customers in fresh and exciting ways through the insights of understanding what it is that they want to get out of your brand.
I think as well, CX can be global, but there's also opportunities for localization. So you could have an overarching strategy, but as we know, consumers in different markets behave and think in different ways. So this allows you to really have your own independent experience dependent on where your customers are in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second problem that CX can address is around barriers to customers purchasing. So again, customers have so many options and they can afford to be selective with their purchase criteria. And we can see on the graph on the right hand side a whole load of different reasons why people would or wouldn't buy based on, low price or value for money or habitual buying or whether, the product is organic. There's so many different things. But the best performing brands ensure that it's easy for customers to find the information that they need to make that purchase decision across any different channel that they choose. And so CX can empower your brand to know the right types of messages to place in the right channels at the relevant stages of the customer journey. And finally, the third problem that CX can help to address is around limited customer retention. So health and beauty product purchase is still dominated by physical and digital marketplaces. That's typically how people are buying. Consumers are constantly faced with a decision to switch brands and products to try something new through advertising, but also in those marketplaces seeing new and different promotions. What CX can empower your brand to do is consider alternative retention models based on your customers' preferences. So, for example, you could maybe think about subscription service models actually that you might not have considered in the past, or enhanced loyalty offerings, that would get them to think about sticking with your brand and coming back. And those insights again come from a really deep grounded knowledge and understanding what your customers are looking for from your brand.
And again, understanding where they buy versus where they find you and what they use to actually consider and then validate that is you are the right brand for them. They might not be the same place. So having that clear understanding of those different stages in that journey for them to make the decision that you're the right person is key. And then, as James has mentioned, the follow-up piece, how can we keep them coming back, allows you to kind of have that visibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting stuff. Okay, so now we're going to explain how CX can empower your brand to solve this lack of customer engagement that we've just talked about. Solve the barriers to customers purchasing, and obviously to solve limited customer retention within your business. And really that comes down to kind of understanding why CX is such a powerful tool for your business and businesses of the people on the call. And really, what we need to think about here is that CX is, it places people, your customers, right at the heart of your kind of brand experience. So really that's about understanding your customers' challenges, ideally or ultimately so you can address them and solve those challenges and provide an experience that pushes them down the engagement and conversion funnel for your brand. We also want to leverage audience and data insights. So that gives us the ability to define strategic business challenges from your customer's perspective, so you can understand really what's going on from your customer's perspective, and create and optimize digital and physical brand experiences so you can connect and convert your audiences. And really it's thinking about customer experience not as the product you're buying or what you're putting into your business, but as the methodology that allows you to place people right at the heart of your brand experience. And what we can see here is that we've got the customer journey describes the market funnel from your customer's point of view. And on screen, you can see a kind of traditional marketing funnel and one that you're probably all quite familiar with. But do your customers think in these terms? Awareness, consideration, retention, advocacy, and kind of almost certainly not is the answer. This is what your customers are doing in real terms when they interact with your brand, and the CX reveals this customer view of your traditional marketing funnel. So they are discovering, they're exploring, they're comparing you to other brands. They're buying your product, they're using your product, and ultimately they're sharing that with themselves, with their social networks and with their family and friends. And this is the basis for your customer journey framework.
So.
Oh, sorry. No, that's fine. That's the sound that one. Sorry.
There we go.
Go back up. Sorry.
Go back up.
Yeah. And so once you've understand that about that journey, that framework from your customer's perspective, then we start thinking about the customer journey and start thinking about the different aspects of a customer journey. So, what is the customer doing and which touch points are they interacting with? And what is the customer thinking and feeling, both positively and negatively, as they're interacting with your brand? What are the customer's drivers and barriers to purchase? What data do we have to prove this? What market research do we have? What surveys or search insights are available to the business to help you understand your customers and how they're interacting with your brand as they go through the journey of purchase? What can we do in each of our channels to improve the experience? Your brand will have priority channels, but there will also be other opportunities within channels that you're potentially not using yet, or your competitors are using, or new channels that are coming into the market that you can see and should be able to leverage and use. And how do we measure the success of these actions? We talked about this measurement framework previously, but this is a key part of thinking about your customers from a customer experience perspective. And what we thought we would do here is just pull out the kind of thinking and feeling aspect of a customer journey, just to give you this and this insight and illustrate this in a bit more detail. So you can kind of see the customer journey from a CX perspective that's laid out across the top. Then we kind of look at the drivers and what's driving people to interact with your brand, or what they're thinking about when they're going through, or the drivers they have as they're going through that customer journey. the bottom, we've got the kind of the barriers that they might experience as they're thinking about the brand that they're interacting with. But then the middle of this diagram is really thinking about how they're thinking and feeling as they're going through the process of interacting with your brand. And there are positive and negative thoughts and feelings that people might have. So where they're feeling positive, great, do more of that. Those are the things that you need to embrace in your brand and do more of and really leverage. Where they're feeling negative, those are the opportunities for your brand. That's where negative feeling from your brand will foster consideration of your competitors' brands, and those are the real opportunities. I mean, sorry, stay on that slide, please. I know, too quick there. I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, the right message at the right time, but we would add to that from a CX perspective and start talking about the right message at the right time in the right channel. And that's really what this looks like. So for instance, if you think customers are unsure where to purchase, then tell them. Or if you know customers are uncertain how best to use your product, then explicitly show them or demonstrate to them how to do that on the right channel where you know they are from your customer experience analysis. And then we start at the top of the call. I was talking about operationalizing CX, and it's also important to understand that CX is first and foremost this methodology to understand your customers as never before. Now, there's different aspects here of a customer journey map. I think we've already talked through those in detail, but what the operationalizing of your CX will give you is this operational plan per channel that you can leverage. And by operationalize, I mean this operational roadmap per marketing channel that leverages the insight and delivers the right message at the right time in the customer journey, but also in the right channel. And those things, when you get this by channel operational plan, that's the real gold of CX. That's the real thing that can drive change into your business. And one of the things that I can almost kind of hear you all thinking on the call, kind of what I need to do this on a business, but I need to do it tomorrow and not next year. And that's why we wanted to introduce you to this concept of accelerated CX. Now, this is a strategic CX methodology that enables brands to design agile, actionable, and digitally exceptional brand experiences, as I think James was talking about earlier on.
Yeah.
And so this is it. This is the 5-step accelerated CX process, which is a proven framework for success. So 5 steps. So first of all, the vision and strategy. If I'll just move that on a bit. But the vision and strategy means that you're able to define the vision, objectives, and key results for your business, as we were talking about previously. Then you go into the research and analysis stage. So you can understand the audiences. We've talked about understanding the audience. We've talked about why that is so important. But you can understand the audiences, the channels, and the market landscape. So what are your competitors doing? What are brands doing that are doing the most progressive things in your sector or online or digitally or kind of in store? What are they doing? How can we learn from that? How can we introduce that into our business? The third is the CX insight. This is the journey mapping. This is understanding and surfacing why, where, and how audiences are engaging with your brand. And then we get into a bit more of the operational side of things. So ideation and prioritization. So how do you generate and select the best digital ideas or the best experience ideas? And then using that insight to give you a roadmap. What is the experience roadmap by channel for your business? That means that you can click the thing, James. It means that you can deliver on that insight into your business in a meaningful way. And that is a cyclical process. So once you've got the roadmap, that feeds back into the vision strategy. So this is something that's it's continual. You're not putting a stake in the ground and saying, right, that is our strategy and that's our roadmap. If you revisit this over a course of every quarter, every half of the year, then you'll be able to continually optimize, continually improve, and improve your channels. And what comes out of this really is these two things. So problems to be solved and jobs to be done. Jobs to be done by channel. Doing this gives you an operational plan for your different channels in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 9 months, and you can do that and do that. And it also gives you problems to be solved. So it gives you opportunities within your business that are addressing and delivering against customer challenges. And that's where the gold is. That's where you can look at doing something that's different from your competitors. It's where you can look to stand out from your competitors. It's where you can look to do something really innovative in the space, in the market. A timeline for doing something like this, and one of the challenges that people usually say is that CX takes months, can take years to get to anything meaningful. Accelerated CX should take 3 months. Should take you 1 quarter of business. from strategy to roadmap, with kind of quick wins being delivered along the way. And then you can revisit that every quarter, right? So it's a quarterly a process, or a cyclical process, to deliver that and to give you that both operational and strategic insight you need to grow your business from a customer's perspective. And then how can you accelerate the CX process? So, there are steps that you can take internally if you're thinking about going through this process or this methodology that mean that you can set yourself up for success. The first, no surprise, is getting buy-in from the senior management team, which should be a no-brainer for anything that's going through your business. The second is about you already got, in fact, the second and third points here about you've got insight in your business already. So customer service transcripts, customer reviews will highlight pain points that your customers experience. They will highlight and identify those negative pain points, or negative, where people are feeling negatively about interacting with your brand and with your channels. And those are the opportunities. Those are where you can really kind of impact that and positively impact and get more opportunities for growth within your business. You will have existing audience and persona insights in your business, whether you've done a brand project, whether you've done a website project or a web application project, whatever that is. You will have audience insight information in your business somewhere. Look at that, review that. There'll be gold in there. Pull that to the surface and leverage that. Focus in the short term, in the first 3 months, on existing channels, and long term, think about new touch points and new channels and new opportunities to do that. That's where the innovation comes in. That's where those opportunities really arise. Look at your data. Your data, again, is gold dust. Collate insights from that data. Look at analytics. Look at surveys. Do some surveys of one, or go through the process of interacting with your brand, but from a small user group perspective, and just look at what's working and what isn't working. And then finally, ensure you've got the right blend of skill sets on the CX project team and in your business. We have been through this a few times with various different clients or various different brands, and there are 3 skill sets that really work. So it's the planning insight, or the planning skill set, the creative insight, and the technology insight. So planning unlocks the insight. Planning is where you get the nuggets, you get to understand the audiences, and you get to understand what tactics are going to work. Creativity delights the audiences, so whether that is the design of assets, whether that is various other creative aspects, that will give you the ability to delight the audiences with the experiences you're creating. And then obviously technology, designing and creating, either leveraging platform or designing those experiences, gives you that thing. So those 3 skill sets, the planning, the creative, and the tech, are kind of core skill sets for your business to deliver this.
I think as well, when you take the opportunity to go back to the data and what you know about your customer, it actually feeds more than just the planning. It feeds all the other elements on to allow you to cut through a very busy, noisy space.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's some common challenges. We know you've got to go to internally in the business and get approval for investment in CX. So it sounds expensive. We don't have the budget, but I think we talked about CX doesn't need to be expensive. When you put the basics in place and you leverage information that's already in your business, it can be very affordable, and it could drive a lot of value into your business. It takes too long. I need to invest in ideas that give me immediate return. This accelerated CX framework, or an accelerated CX framework in your business, where you're leveraging assets that you already have, will be able to, indeed, if you've been through the process and you've already got some CX, or have some CX that's been done in your business previously, you can leverage that, and you can look for the gold and the nuggets in that insight and in that previous piece of work to draw that out. CX should always be actionable. So again, leverage what you've got in the business previously, but make sure you're focusing on operationalizing it. That's the nugget. If you've been through the CX process before in your business, make sure you're looking at it with fresh eyes, you're operationalizing it, you're thinking about how it can be applied into your channels and into your business, and what that insight can drive growth and revenue. And apparently it's just a fad. It's not worth the spend. We don't need it. But customer-centric businesses, as we talked about at the start of this presentation or the start of this masterclass, are proven to drive higher revenues and growth. And good CX, in our experience, will never fail, which is good.
So,
I think I'm handing back to you, Martha.
You are. CX, we spoke a lot about a lot of theory, a lot of doing your admin, all that side of it, and actually getting the strategy really aligned to get the best out of the work. But CX isn't just digital. So I wanted to take you through a few opportunities maybe to use from a creative standpoint for how that might be able to help. Next slide, please. I love channeling my inner voice.
Yeah, I know.
So the power of pop-up. Online shopping is undeniably convenient, okay? But there is nothing like the experience of holding a product in your hand. And that's why we love a beauty pop-up. They're bringing back the magic, and they give you a chance to access the brands that you love in a far more of a 360 way. Yes, obviously, you know, the web can ship a moisturizer to your door the next day, but the reality is you can't feel it, you can't smell it. Sometimes shade matching, dependent on the technology that's being used, can be problematic. You can't swatch it. And so how do you know you're going to love it? And when all the consumers, everyone, including us, are penny pinching and cost is such a factor, you need to make sure that you're really giving the consumer the confidence in this brand, and it's going to help them with their end challenge. So, next slide, please. For me, one of the, I think, great opportunities and someone I think did it really well is Benefit. Benefit have a car wash inspired pop-up store. It was stationed in Covent Garden, London, and I think it might have been everything that our bubble dreams were made of at the time. It actually, they tried it in New York as well, where they had a similar one. It was a free event, but it was ticketed. It sold out instantly. But the fully immersive experience, it really allowed customers to consult, shop, and play. When we go back to Andy's touch points on all of those different emotions and journey that someone goes through with a brand, a pop-up is an amazing opportunity to actually do it all in one. Now, the store's design features, actually, they played a real nod to the classic American car wash, as you can see, with the kind of bright colours, but the reality is they were trying to capture the essence of the Paul range and its packaging. Whether it was interactive displays, selfie mirrors, as long as bubble, foam galore. Benefits also had experts. They're available for one-to-one consultations. You got to try before you buy, which I think when it comes to product discovery is a really great opportunity. You'd be leaving with samples. And then to top it all off, they had TikTok there. And TikTok actually played a really big part in helping get some of that content creation in real life. So not only did this touch discovery, from a footfall point of view, it actually validated the consideration loops that comes into play when someone's trying to look at a brand. They got to experience it, feel it, try it, and they had additional consultation. Not only that, shocker, you could buy it when you were there. So there were multiple touch points throughout the customer's journey, whether you were a long-standing Benefit junkie or whether you were new to the brand. This opportunity in this environment was really great one for you. Moving on to smart mirror technology. Now, one of the things that I think is a bit of a no-brainer, smart mirrors are everywhere. This isn't something new, but I just want to take an opportunity to show how thinking about it differently and having it as part of your customer experience strategy can have a positive impact. Sephora, for me, did this beautifully. So they actually, I said that word earlier, phygital, but Sephora united the physical and digital store operational elements into a single unit within this mirror, and it delivered a 360 experience. What I mean by that is, if you weren't sure of a product, a shade, you were allowed to virtually try it on through the mirror. We all know that COVID has kind of made us all a bit more germophobic, and I definitely look twice when I look at the old lipsticks now and think, do I want to try that? I used to think it before, but now I think it a lot more.
Oh, I do the same, actually, yeah.
Yeah, you still try them though.
I still try them.
Yeah, and this allows to take away some of that element, but also it allows you as the brand to capture their data in a second. Not only are you capturing where they are from a geolocation point of view, but you're capturing the time of day that your peak customers are shopping, which helps from a profiling point of view, maybe from age group or whatever. It also then allows you to personalize it all. So they're going on, I mean, Charlotte Tilbury also do this perfectly, but in-store makeup artists could log each product that they'd use on the customer in-store through the app. They can then use it as a bit of a go-to shopping list for later on, whether they are in-store or online. And what it also allows you to do is their virtual artist AR tool, which is through the screen that I'm showing here now. It allows customers to purchase the products that they've tried on virtually in the app. and then find out where they are located in store if they want to go and see it in person. Now, mirrors throughout history have always had some form of narrative. Look at Snow White, for goodness sake, always telling you the truth. But for me, this is a great opportunity because for some reason, we take the brutal honesty when a machine's told us. But if someone else told me I have big paws, I don't know how I'd feel about it. But when someone scans my face and tells me in a percentage, I take it on the chin. So I think there's a lot of barriers that you can push past as well by having these technologies around sensitive topics like people's faces and conditions where we can help them more. The third thing that I wanted to kind of talk about for me is actually the untapped opportunity of live streaming. Live content is no longer a novelty, right? This isn't, again, a new thing, but over the years, it's becoming more apparent the potential online streaming has. The entertainment industry is an example. I think it's like 7.2 billion hours of content watched during Q3 of 2022. Additionally, users are becoming more confident in this format. Look at Netflix. If you look, it touches every part of our lives, from social media all the way through to the TV we consume. And actually, you've got some major kind of platforms. So the Alibaba group actually were kind of one of the first groups to really trial communicating with their customers in this way, and TikTok did a piece of research where they saw that 52% of global users would also be interested in consuming live branded content. So not only is that going to give you an opportunity to tap into a medium that we are used to using, we are a little bit more, not naive, but I think as consumers, it jars with us less because it doesn't feel like it's as obvious an ad. We're so used to being advertised to now that we automatically turn off to certain things. This kind of stream, it blends that influencer education and modern world that we're really used to.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is a great way of looking at it is Clarins. So Clarins, for me, in lockdown, really pivoted in the way in which they communicated. Everyone thinks of Clarins as that physical store, those beautiful kind of assistants stood in white coats, and it's very much a personal one-to-one experience. When lockdown happened, that had to change, and they actually brought in their virtual experience, giving lots of video one-to-one consultations. They saw a 6% uplift in conversion when they started working in this way. And so rather than kind of going back to what they knew before, they lent in and they launched their own streaming platform. So Clarins last year, at the beginning of last year, launched their own streaming platform. Now they call it Clarins Events. It is a plethora of information from their formulation teams to practitioners to makeup artists to dermatologists. You have a problem, you want to understand how to apply a product, use a product, help yourself. They live stream that content so you can en masse engage one-to-one. Why this works really well is not only does it allow you to have speaking to those consultants to really have that experience at your side, but it also brings a sense of community and validation. You know, again, skin problems are such a personal thing to the individual, and sometimes you can feel very alone. And so by bringing in the community chat, the live streaming, and then obviously the go-to call to actions, it's going from strength to strength, and they really are seeing a massive conversion in this.
Yeah, talk about a brand identifying a problem to be solved from a CX perspective, and like you said, leaning into it. I mean, that's...
Yeah, absolutely.
And the numbers really do speak for themselves, and I think this is going to evolve over time. I know I've personally really enjoyed watching them, whether that's in podcast format, vlog format, social, and I think that's the thing. They've gone back to asking their customers what they want and need versus assuming.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier about the different teams that could be involved. So the benefits of this as a customer experience are beyond just marketing there actually, but it's actually the customer service team are getting stuff out of it. The product development team are getting insights from it to help develop the product. Everybody's a winner within the organisation when this approach is taken.
Absolutely. So we've gone through a lot of stuff today, but I just wanted to kind of summarise. You know, we've spoke about CX, we've spoke about a couple of people that we think are doing it in a really good way, and we've spoke about the way you need to be approaching and communicating. Let's say you're sat there going, I'm in, what's next? Well, the first thing is gather your insights. We spoke about this a lot, but if you don't understand who you're trying to talk to and what is blocking them from buying your product, whether that's a social perception, whether that's a UX point of view, price point, whatever it may be. Unless you understand what that issue is, you're not going to be able to really focus on how to remove those blockers to support business growth. That's the first one. The second one, we talk about exciting people, but the people actually sometimes that you need on board with these kind of initiatives more than anyone are your own teams. As I said, the more you grow, you stop wearing multiple hats and you very much focus on your own lane. This is not something that can be done in silo. This is an amazing opportunity, not only for the culture of your business, but to really be as agile as possible. And I know James mentioned agility earlier, to really understand where all of the different components of your business and departments play and where you can strengthen everything to get a better end result. And then finally, get in touch with us. Explore whether you can actually find opportunities to accelerate it. We've got so much experience in this team, whether it's 30 years brand side experience, 20 odd years kind of UX, CX, digital experience, and then 10 years, 30, 20, 10, I've just realised, 10 years experience in the digital space. We have so many people that can support in so many different ways. So, questions. I've actually been looking down and had loads of questions flying in, so apologies if you've been looking at my roots while we've been doing this. But we've had a few in, and they're not directed at me, boys, unfortunately. No. Boys, chaps. Right. So the first one, where do you get the insight from to map out the customer journey? Do I need to run consumer research to run a CX plan?
Yeah, I can take that one. So you can probably get CX insights from a whole load of different sources that you might never have even considered within your organisation. So typically it will tend to come down into two different things. What we normally talk about being kind of the quantitative data that you might get from things like your website analytics or from your CRM platforms. And those things tend to give you real trend data to help to understand what the problems are specifically within those parts of the experience. But actually the bit that can be really, really interesting and insightful is the qualitative side of things. And that's what we call the voice of the customer. Mm-hmm. And that can come from anything, where you may have spoken to customers in the past. It can come from looking at online reviews on things like Trustpilot, for example, or on social media. It could be looking at search insights to see how they're searching around different things. So there's a whole load of different things that you can do. Mm. It can be beneficial to run research projects if there are gaps. If once you've looked at everything that you've got within your organisation, as Andy mentioned, once you've pulled everything together and you're saying, actually, we're really missing insights in this area, then you can address that through additional research. But you might find that you've got everything that you need, at least to get started and at least to get some quick wins straight off the bat.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning you don't need to speak to lots of people. So just small focus groups of 5 to 6 people can reveal real insight that you might think you don't have to talk to or speak to hundreds of people. 5 or 6 people will give you the insight that you need. And just to add to what James was saying, James then was talking about the voice of the customer, the data of the customer. So there's two sides of those things. So I think you talked about the data, but you didn't specifically say that phrase. But the data of the customer and the voice of the customer melded together gives you that real insight.
We spend a lot of time as well doing attitudinal research, and I think we underestimate the power of that sometimes because perception, humans, we're really hard to quantify. We're not a robot. And so actually attitudinal research can sometimes help quantify the unquantifiable. Okay, a couple more. Once you've created a CX strategy and plan, do you need to refresh it every year? I actually think this is a really good question because I think there are elements of it that are very fluid. And that as trends change, you might find it needs to change. But how does that work? Is it kind of a universal thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to think about it in terms of renewing it at a certain point. We talked about that cyclical nature of that accelerated CX model, and if you are constantly thinking about how that reviews every quarter and looking at the strategy, looking at the OKRs, looking at how that filters down into your operational planning. It's not a stake in the ground and that's it. Let's move on from there and do something else in the business. It's a methodology. It's something that the business needs to embrace. And once you've got that first plan in place, that kind of cyclical review of what's happening and kind of optimizing it as you go is the thing that matters to the business. Your business is going to be impacted by things your competitors are doing, by changing market trends, by new technologies that are coming onto the market, just by what's happening in there in your sector and in the sector itself. You need to incorporate those things into your thinking as you're going on. Your channel strategy is going to evolve, and the CX is a means to help you do that on an ongoing, optimized basis.
It also gives you a bit of structure to ensure that you do actually check in on yourself.
Yeah,
I
really
think that's
important,
something that you forget a lot of the time as well is we've made the plan, we do the plan, we should probably check in on the plan.
Yeah.
I think that, and particularly in the health and beauty category, things are so fluid and we have new brands coming into the market every single day that you kind of have to keep sharpening the pencil. I think it's really, really key.
Yeah, well, one final thought on that as well, Hannah, would be typically what will happen is the actual roadmap of activities and ideas and the plan that you've got there may chop and change because you'll have different priorities. So it might be that, you know, one quarter the website is the most important thing and then the next is social, but then something happens like COVID and actually it's really important that you're starting to sell online and thinking about online delivery. So that part of it will change. But the bit of it that tends not to change as frequently is the vision and objectives. And that's particularly because usually your business will have that as kind of the stake in the ground from the start. But also, if you chop and change your business vision and objectives too often, you'll never really achieve it and reach it, right? Because you'll always be going after something new. So it's worth keeping that in mind as well.
So there's two more. One is, what are the time frames for something like this? Because obviously we've spoke about an accelerated version and we've also spoke about like think big, the whole shebang. And that can feel quite overwhelming if it's something as an initiative that you want to kind of push. What typically is the time frame you would expect for something like this?
From the accelerated process would be, well, I think
I know it's annoying.
that's a really hard question, but a business should be able to go through the accelerated process in about 3 months' time.
Okay.
So from first thinking about engaging with the business through testing the strategy and vision to having that roadmap in place, think about a 3 month time frame.
So that's kind of a normal actually planning window that you would use at the beginning of a new financial year anyway.
Exactly. I mean, the downside is that the business has to be aligned behind the strategy, behind the methodology. So without the business engagement and without that, these things can take a lot longer. But if the business is behind it and you've got the process in place and the business is understanding that process, then and you've got the right skill set in place, then it should be taking 3 months.
Awesome. I have one final one. We've overrun by 1 minute. I apologize. But what is the main benefit of looking at CX for your brand? If you could pick one.
That's a really difficult question.
It's so loaded, isn't it?
You see that? I went, that's your question.
I didn't ask them.
Yeah. It's growing your business. It's absolutely got to be about growing your business. That's the most important thing to any business, and that's exactly what customer experience is designed to do. Your customers are the people who spend money. They're the ones who actually are giving money into your business. If you find ways to treat your customers well, look after them, resonate with them, and give them things that they want, they'll spend money with your brand, and that in turn will grow your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, think about CX as the methodology to drive growth and revenue into your business. It is not the solution. It's not the thing. It's what comes out of it is the thing. It's the methodology that drives the growth and the revenue in your business.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your questions, guys. And we hope you've enjoyed it today. Apologies for some of the technical difficulties. It's always the way. But please, if you have any questions, get in touch. We also have a podcast and we have our own research. So please do check out our website. There's tons of information out there. And look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.